Imagine you're the perfect target. No friends, no parents waiting to pick you up after school, just an orphan kid sitting alone during lunch. To the bullies in your school, you're not even a person. Your entertainment, a punching bag, the kid they shove into lockers when the hallway gets crowded. They think they know exactly who you are. The weak kid, the quiet kid, the nobody. But what if they're catastrophically wrong? What if the boy they just shoved against that locker is secretly the most dangerous person in the entire building? Because throughout superhero history, something strange keeps happening. Some of the most powerful heroes ever known started exactly like that, alone, ignored, and completely underestimated. Today we're looking at 4 orphan teenagers who were underestimated by everyone around them before becoming some of the most dangerous heroes alive. And the further we go on this list, the worse the mistake becomes. Because the final story includes one of the most important lessons ever told in a superhero story. Shazam, Billy Batson, didn't grow up powerful. He grew up forgotten. After the deaths of his parents, archaeologists C.C. Batson and Marilyn Batson, Billy was thrown into the foster system. One home after another, none of them lasted. Eventually, Billy ended up surviving on the streets, a teenage orphan riding subways just to stay warm. To most people, Billy Batson was invisible, just another homeless kid nobody noticed. But somewhere beneath the world, an ancient wizard had been searching for something very specific. Not the strongest person, not the smartest, someone worthy. For centuries, this wizard searched for a champion to inherit his magic. And when Billy Batson appeared in the Rock of Eternity, the wizard made his decision. Billy would receive the power of Shazam. One word, that was all it took. When Billy says the name Shazam, lightning strikes his body, and the orphan teenager transforms into a living magical champion. But this wasn't just a costume change. Billy gained the power of 6 legendary figures: the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. That combination makes Shazam one of the most powerful heroes on Earth. Strong enough to throw cars, fast enough to cross cities in minutes, and capable of summoning lightning powerful enough to shatter buildings. Which means the homeless kid people once ignored on the sidewalk became someone who could flatten an entire city block if he wanted to. Suddenly, bullying Billy Batson becomes a terrible survival strategy. But magic isn't the only way an orphan becomes dangerous. The next hero built his power the hard way: Batman. Bruce Wayne's childhood ended in a dark alley. He was 8 years old when his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, were murdered during a mugging in Gotham City. 2 gunshots, and Bruce Wayne became an orphan, standing between the bodies of the only people who ever protected him. For most people, trauma like that destroys them. For Bruce Wayne, it created purpose. Bruce made a promise that night. He would spend the rest of his life making sure no one else experienced the same loss. But Bruce quickly realized something. A promise means nothing without power. So Bruce Wayne disappeared. For years, he traveled the world, training with martial artists, studying criminology, learning psychology, understanding exactly how criminals think. He pushed his body and mind to the absolute limit. Because Bruce Wayne wasn't preparing to fight criminals. He was preparing to become something they would fear. When he finally returned to Gotham, he didn't return as a billionaire heir. He returned as Batman. Batman has no superpowers, but he has something almost as dangerous: preparation, technology, and resources that rival military budgets, armored vehicles, advanced weapons, citywide surveillance systems. The boy who once stood helpless in Crime Alley eventually became someone capable of dismantling entire criminal organizations. And criminals in Gotham eventually learned something the hard way. You don't bully Bruce Wayne, because Batman might already be watching. But the next orphan on this list didn't rely on wealth. His power came from something far stranger. Daredevil. Matt Murdock grew up in Hell's Kitchen, a neighborhood where violence wasn't rare, It was normal. His father, Jack, battling Jack Murdoch, was a struggling boxer trying to give his son a better life. Matt studied hard, stayed out of trouble, and tried to avoid the streets. Then one day, everything changed. Matt pushed a man out of the path of an out-of-control truck. The truck was carrying radioactive chemicals. The chemicals splashed directly into Matt's eyes. He survived, but he went blind. For most teenagers, that would have ended everything. Instead, it awakened something extraordinary. The accident enhanced Matt's remaining senses to superhuman levels. His hearing became so precise he could detect individual heartbeats across a room. His sense of smell could track people through entire city blocks. His sense of touch could detect subtle changes in air movement. His brain processed all of it like a radar system. Matt could sense the entire world around him, better than most people who could see. Under the training of a mysterious mentor named Stick, Matt learned how to use these abilities. And, eventually, he became Daredevil, a fighter capable of dismantling armed criminals using instincts that function almost like precognition. Criminals in Hell's Kitchen made one mistake when they saw the blind man walking with a cane. They thought he was helpless. They were wrong. Because the man they underestimated could take down entire rooms of armed fighters without seeing a single one of them. But even Daredevil's story doesn't include the moment that changed superhero history forever. For that, we have to talk about Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Peter Parker spent most of his teenage life being ignored. After the deaths of his parents, Richard and Mary Parker, he was raised by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben in Queens. At school, Peter was the awkward kid, the nerd, the easy target. Flash Thompson made sure Peter never forgot that, shoving him in hallways, mocking him in class, treating him like someone who could never fight back. And for most of Peter's life, that was true until a radioactive spider changed everything. The bite rewrote Peter's biology. His muscles became incredibly strong. His reflexes accelerated far beyond normal human limits. And his nervous system developed something completely new, the spider sense, an instinct that warns him of danger before it even happens. Peter Parker can lift more than 10 tons. That's the weight of a city bus. His reflexes are fast enough to dodge bullets. And his spider sense warns him about danger before the attack even begins. The bullied teenager from Queens suddenly became one of the most dangerous fighters in New York. But Peter didn't become a hero right away. At first, he used his powers for fame and money. One night after a wrestling match, a thief ran past him while security yelled for help. Peter stepped aside. It wasn't his responsibility. Minutes later, that same criminal entered Peter's neighborhood and shot Uncle Ben. Peter chased the killer across the city. When he finally caught him and pulled off the mask, he froze. It was the same thief he had allowed to escape earlier. That moment changed Peter forever, because the words Uncle Ben had told him suddenly made perfect sense. With great power comes great responsibility, and the quiet kid bullies used to shove into lockers became Spider-Man.